are you? 皆さん、お元気ですか? Today, Karate video number 58, and we're going to learn about KEIKO. Also, we can say OKEIKO, and the difference between KEIKO and RENSHU. RENSHU or 練習します. Both means the practice or like a training, but there's a slight difference, and it's quite difficult even for Japanese people. Sometimes we get confused. So today I'm going to explain you in detail about KEIKO. As I told you, KEIKO します or 練習します. Both we can translate like to practice or train. And what's the difference? Well, so the first we're going to see how is kanji. This K, this means to compare and think it over. So compare something and think a lot. And this ko, this means old, 古い, something old. So it means not nowadays, but for example, the big maestros, the great teacher, found something in the ancient period. Then we compare, we study, maybe through books or by the teacher, but we study and we think these old style things, then practice. So it's always something to do with the old things. The other word, 練習, this is also practice, and these kanjis are like this. The first one, ren, this part, the left part is ito, thread. And altogether, this means to choose the best threads. There are lots of threads, but only we choose the best ones. This one. And shu, this is also 習います, to learn something from the teacher. Learn. But this kanji, to learn, this the upper part is hane, wings. Wing, the bird wings. And this part, lower part, is shiro, white. So this is like a baby chicken or baby chick. Still the baby bird, and they don't know how to fly, but they practice and they practice, and at last they learn how to fly. So this is the learn, to learn. So learn and to choose the best thread. This is like a 練習, the practice, 練習. And the main goal of these two words, this practice, KEIKO and 練習 are the same. 目的, this is the goal, objective, goal. One is 技術向上. 技術 is techniques or skills, so skills improvement. Or 知識 knowledge, improvement, 知識向上. So both, they've got the same goal. At first, we're going to see when we use this one, 練習します to practice, because usually we use 練習します not 稽古します. For example, sports, all kind of sports. For example, 野球 baseball, soccer, or American football, or tennis, basketball, volleyball, every kind of sports, we say 練習します. And also 勉強, this is the study. When we practice something about the study, then also practice 練習します. And also we can practice our cooking style, 料理. We can practice our skill of the cooking. Also, 練習します. And the language, like 日本語, 英語, this kind of things, also we practice, 練習します. And especially kanji. Kanji is difficult, so we must practice. We've got hiragana, katakana, kanji, and kanji, these kind of letters. We must practice them. If not, we forget them. So, kanji, kanji を練習します。We don't say 稽古します。練習します。And when it's talking about music, 音楽, especially when it is 西洋音楽, Occidental music, or classic音楽, classical music, like piano, violin, guitar, we practice and we use 練習します。ピアノを練習します。I repeat and repeat again. バイオリンを練習します。And then, when can we use this word 稽古 when we want to say practice? Well, do you remember I told you this is something very old, something old. So this must be 伝統的なもの。伝統的, this means traditional. Well, only 伝統, this is tradition. Tradition, 伝統。伝統的, traditional. So traditional things. So it's something to do with 歴史, history, because it's not the nowadays things. Something that comes through history, 歴史. And also it's something to do with 文化. 文化, this is culture. 文化. Especially Japanese culture. 日本文化. 日本文化. So when we practice something to do with Japanese culture, we say 稽古します. So let's see the examples of what kind of Japanese culture we can use 稽古 when we want to say practice. So the culture, for example, kado. Kado is Japanese style flower arrangement. So when they practice, they use 稽古します. And also sado, tea ceremony. This is also necessary 稽古, the practice. Shodo. Shodo is a calligraphy, Japanese calligraphy. This is also 稽古します. And 日本舞踊. 日本舞踊. Well, this is Japanese dance, Japanese style dance with kimono and usually 舞妓さん、芸者さん、そう、舞妓さん、芸者さん dance 日本舞踊 Japanese style dancing with kimono. And these kind of things we use 稽古します and also 芝居 or お芝居 This is theater, the play or theatrical performance like kabuki, no, and also all kind of dramatic play. The play nowadays, they say 稽古します They don't say 練習します They say 稽古します when we want to say to practice. Before I told you the Occidental musical instruments such as piano, violin, the guitar, those kind of things we say 練習します We practice the piano 練習します like that. But 日本の音楽 when it's about Japanese music, then we say 稽古します but Japanese style, traditional one. For example, 三味線 or 津軽三味線 This is kind of Japanese style guitar with 3 strings or 和太鼓 It's the Japanese drums, the big drums. So we say 稽古します 稽古 So all kind of Japanese musical instruments like shakuhachi, it's kind of flute, Japanese style flute, or koto or koto. So these kind of Japanese instruments, we say 稽古します稽古します Of course, martial arts. Budo, we use keiko instead of renshu because this is Japanese culture, a little bit historical. So we use keiko. For example, what kind of budo? Well, all kinds of budo, such as kendo, judo, karate, kyudo, shorinji kenpo, aikido, naginata, sumo, and so on. Many kind of things, many kind of martial arts, we say with keiko when we want to say practice, keiko. And the other very, very big difference between renshu and keiko, renshu shimasu, to practice, you can practice all alone, all by yourself. You can practice anything all by yourself. But keiko, you can't practice alone. You must have all the time sensei. You've got to have sensei. Sensei, I put this word sensei, so someone who teaches you, who transmits their knowledge. Because it depends on the culture, the word is different. But sensei, I put this sensei, but for example, it can be oyakata, shisho, shihan, shidoin, so many kind of words, but they can teach you. So when you practice, in the case of keiko, always there must be someone who guide you like a teacher. This is a very big difference. The other difference between renshu and keiko is that renshu shimasu, so you practice repeatedly once more. So by your experience, so you experience a lot of times, then you can improve yourself by practicing, by renshu. But in this case, maybe you can, so you improve yourself, maybe you can invent something new, the new way to do something. So this is renshu shimasu. So not only to learn something, but maybe you can get to invention, or maybe you can do it much quicker. This kind of thing, renshu shimasu. But keiko, this is totally different. Because do you remember? This kanji is something from the old style. This is like a culture. This is tradition. So when we say keiko shimasu, it's not you're going to invent anything new. But the great maestro, the great teacher, found something in the old days. So we practice with our teacher because we need a teacher to do keiko. Always we've got the maestro. And they show you how to get this ideal of the old style. So this is a cultural things. This is tradition. So we try to get to that old style culture because that was the ideal. So ideal things is there, and we practice to understand this culture. This is keiko shimasu. So it's a different between renshu and keiko. Let's see some words using keiko. And these kind of words we use in dojo. For example, keiko hajime, and the contrary, keiko osame. Keiko hajime, well, hajime, hajimemasu, the verb to begin. So keiko hajime, this is the first training in dojo in January after the new year. So in January, keiko hajime, This is the first training of the year after the new year. And keiko osame, the contrary. This is the last training in December before the New Year's Eve. Before the New Year's, with keiko osame. This is the last practice. And osamemasu, this verb, it means to organize. Osamemasu, organize or put everything in order. So this is osamemasu. So keiko osame, the last training in the year. Kangeiko. Well, here we pronounce geiko instead of keiko because it's easier to pronounce like this because before there's other word, kan. So we say kangeiko. And this kan, it comes from the adjective samui, cold, cold. So kangeiko, it is the practice in the cold. So in the cold weather or cold time, we practice keiko. But keiko, so all together with the teacher, with sensei, this is kangeiko. In the winter time, in the very cold time, the practice during the cold period. Shochu geiko. Shochu geiko. Well, this sho, it comes from the other adjective atsui, hot. The weather is very hot, hot. And chu, this is also naka, in the middle. So in the middle of the hot, so hot, so hot. Then we do keiko, the practice. So practice in summer. In Japan, the summer is very hot, sticky hot, humid and hot. So it's very difficult to endure this kind of hot. But even so, shochu geiko, they practice in that hot weather. Today we learned the word practice, but they are keiko and renshu, and it's different. So I think now you know better what about keiko. So this is not only the practice, just like the sports, but it's something to do with the Japanese culture, like tradition. So this is keiko. So it's quite different from only the exercise to renshu shimasu, but to get to go to the near to the Japanese culture. This is keiko. If you liked this video, please give me a like. And if you didn't subscribe my channel yet, please subscribe my channel. And if you share my videos with your friends, that will help me a lot. Please. 今日もここまで見てくださってどうもありがとうございます。ぜひチャンネル登録といいねボタン、そして私のビデオをお友達とシェアしていただけたらとても嬉しいです。ぜひお願いいたします。ではまた会いましょう。じゃあね。バイバイ。